It's fall and I'm going to be talking about cover cropping. So a lot of people have asked why cover crop in fall. Here in Northern California, we get, where I am at, we get rain, and when it's rain, it means it's not freezing. Rain means that our soil is going to be perfectly ripe for planting seed. It's going to get the moisture it needs, and the sun's going to be coming out like it does today so that the grasses have a chance to grow. I have been playing with all different types of plantings in different ways, in different areas of our land to see what makes sense for us with the birds over the years. And this year I'm trying something new, always tweaking. So a lot of you will ask, what are you planting? In my car, I just picked up 550 pounds of cover crop seed. That's a lot. And this is going to get us from now, November, all the way through till February when I'm planting, working with the rains as they fall. Sometimes we'll get some more in March. Last year we got some rain in May, so we kept being able to plant. I here have lots of ryegrass. I have annual ryegrass and perennial ryegrass. So the annual ryegrass, annual versus perennial, what do those two words mean? Annual means that it dies back after a year. They put out seeds. The seeds are what's dropped into the ground, and then that is how the life cycle of that grass continues. I am the only alchemist here on the property that doesn't have allergies, so we can't let the grass go to seed in our case. So it's only to be planted in areas where I know that the chickens are really going to destroy, like around close to a coop. We plant really high traffic areas because for us, the annual ryegrass takes hold really fast, grows really fast. It's sequestering a lot of carbon for us, which we're always conscious of, our carbon footprint, and trying to do better by the world, trying to keep the girls on green grass. So it's a really fast growing grass. It's also really cost effective. So we use the annual for that application here, and we use perennial, meaning that it does go to seed, but it also creates a root structure out of the ground where it's going to be coming back year after year. We plant that in areas that we're trying to remediate that aren't high traffic areas that we can keep the chickens out of. Chickens don't naturally just eat grass. Like you can hear of like 100% grass-fed beef. There's no 100% grass-fed chicken. What they're interested in is usually the bugs in between. They'll eat some of the grasses, but they're interested in foraging around, scratching it up, looking for other things. So I'm always thinking about biodiversity. How many different types of grasses, legumes can we plant to be able to create a hospitable environment for all different kinds of life to come for the chickens to interact with? Keeping a nice forage on the top of the ground makes it so that the ground isn't exposed. So if there's big rains, we're not losing our soil, our topsoil. And I'm also thinking about the amount of nitrogen that the chickens are dropping. So chicken poop is really full of nitrogen, which is great. A lot of soil is depleted in nitrogen, but here we can have an excess of it if we're not actively managing it with what we're planting as a cover crop. So I do the ryegrass, that's perennial and annual, and I'm also interested in different legumes. We work with a green manure mix that has vetch and different peas in it. Because beans, peas, they are really good at feeding on nitrogen. They're heavy feeders, so they need all of that. So it's actually pulling the excess nitrogen out of the soil, bringing it up into forage for the birds to be able to pick and eat at those grasses, pick and eat at those seeds. We also have played with mustard. Mustard is beautiful, and it comes up in these little yellow flowers. And I planted a bunch of it last year with our ryegrass, and it was gorgeous, but really tricky to manage as it was time to cut it down. And so I don't do the mustard. I'm not going to do it this year because I'm the only one who doesn't get allergies, so I have to go out there and mow it or weed whack it down before it lets all of its pollen go, and it has like these really strong stalks, and so it was just killing the weed whipper. So I'm not going to do that this year. But it is a beautiful plant, and it does feed on a lot of nitrogen, so that might be good for your area. I plant a lot of crimson clover because that does really well for our area. It's gorgeous, it makes beautiful forage, that comes back year after year. What else do we have? I'm thinking, yeah, and the vetch. The vetch is interesting for the birds and can crawl over different types of fencing or around the coops and make like a nice area for the chickens to hide out in, and they can pick around at the grasses. No chickens are going to eat a whole diet of any of these grasses, and so sometimes you can read conflicting things online about like, does this harm a chicken, does this not? And none of this is anything that can, in my experience, harm the chickens. They've all been fine, and really we're using it as a cover crop to protect our soil and keep the girls on green, so that there's not constantly exposed soil where, you know, different pathogenic worms could be, or different bacteria could just be growing if it's in a dark area that just isn't being managed well. So much of chicken management in our case is soil management and constantly playing with what works in our area. So we do crimson clover, we have done mustard, but we're not doing it this year, perennial rye, annual rye, vetch, red oats. We're going to do red oats this year, which I'm really excited about. This is something new, just trying to get more of that biodiversity into the soil. And I'll make a video of how we scatter the seeds. I did many years ago have a like seed scatter that looked like a little mower that you could push around, but really doing it by hand, I think broadcasting by hand is better. It connects me to the seeds, it connects me to the soil. I can see how much I'm laying down. It just feels better. So we're going to be hand broadcasting all of this, which is labor intensive, but totally worth it for the connection. This is a very long explanation of the journey of cover cropping for us and how we are managing our soils and managing the birds. It's constant trial and error for us of what works for our area, constant trial and error of when to do it during the year. This is why we do it in the fall, because it's not going to frost, it's going to grow for us, and we get our first crack at being able to plant it now before the frosts come for us, which traditionally are in January, February. We don't really plant too much there, hopefully again in March. So farming is a constant dance of working with what nature is providing us. There's no one set date that I can ever say, you know, like the 15th of November we plant stuff. It's not like that. We have to constantly be up to the task of what's being presented to us, and take those opportunities as nature gives it, because nature always does. We just got to pay attention. So if you have questions about our mixes, what we're doing, how we're doing it, leave your questions here, and we will answer you and give some more information as the weeks go on as to how all these plantings are going.